Hey, so we are on chapter 5, page 39. This chapter is called The Pits. So I'm wondering if they're going to fall into an actual pit, like a trap, or maybe like their spirits are down in the pits. Okay? Remember, we left off in chapter 4. They just discovered Jenny's little camp, and they found the note about the journal entry about the undiscovered tribe. So they're worried she might have run into some unfriendly people. Okay, so let's keep reading on chapter 5, page 39. Max tapped the screen on his watch phone and expanded the map. 7 miles northeast was a river. That might be where the bridge is located, said Max. If we find it, we might find Jenny. The boys left the clearing and stepped back into the jungle. A pig-like animal called a tapir sprinted across their path. Overhead, Jack heard a group of howler monkeys growling like a bunch of bears. Since the river was 7 miles northeast, Jack and Max had two choices. They could trudge north through the forest and then take a right toward the river, or they could head for the river first and then walk along its banks. At some point, they'd hopefully come across the bridge. Jack and Max decided to take the second option. There was more sunlight near the river. After hiking for a while, they heard the sound of running water. It's the river, said Max. We're getting close. Before they knew it, Jack and Max were at the river's edge. Dangerous-looking rapids were flowing by. Rapids are fast-flowing sections of a river that crash over the boulders in its way. Steering clear of the river, the boys walked along the bank. Jack continued to mark every fifth tree, while Max used his watch phone to chart their path. We should be there any minute, said Max, as they approached the 7-mile mark. Sure enough, they found what they were looking for, a rope bridge crossing the river. It was 10 feet above the water. When they got to it, they looked for Jenny or evidence that she'd been there, but there was nothing. I wonder if she crossed over, said Max. Let's find out, said Jack. Jack and Max surveyed the bridge. There were wooden planks for steps and ropes for handrails. Jack and Max tugged on the ropes and walked on a couple of planks. When they were satisfied it would hold their weight, they carefully crossed. As soon as they got to the other side, they noticed something peculiar. There were plastic garbage bags stacked along the bank and a dugout boat tied to a post. A path led from the bridge to the forest. At the edge of the forest, there were 10 donkeys with burlap bags and pickaxes hanging from their saddles. What's that all about? Asked Jack. Max shrugged his shoulders. The boys followed the path. As soon as they passed under the trees, they found themselves in an enormous clearing. In the dusty, barren earth, there was a collection of large pits or holes dug into the earth. Scrambling over the holes was a bunch of dirty, sweaty men. Jack and Max counted 10 of them, which easily equaled the number of pits in the ground. From what the brothers could tell, they looked Brazilian. They also looked like they'd been working in the sun for years. Their skin was dark brown and wrinkled like a raisin. Jack and Max watched as one of the men was lowered into a pit. A few minutes later, a bucket of dirt was sent up, and another man poured the contents of the bucket into the sieve. After the finer dust and the debris fell through the holes of the strainer, a single nugget of earth was left. It was passed to a third man who cleaned it. The object was washed thoroughly and given to a fourth man who studied it through a magnifying glass. The man's lips curled in disgust as he threw the rock to the ground and walked off. They're digging for gold, said Max. Just then, a threatening voice rang out. Jack and Max pulled out their Google goggles. The GPS Google goggles were high-powered binoculars that could magnify objects 2 miles away. Jack and Max placed the devices over their eyes. They focused in on the source of the sound. An older man was walking toward the miners. He was wrinkled from the sun like the others, but he carried himself differently. He held himself like a boss. There was a green bandana around his neck, a dirty cigarette hanging off his bottom lip. On the top of his upper lip was a bushy mustache. A rug of curly gray chest hair popped out from the top of his half unbuttoned shirt. Hooked onto his belt was a holster with an antique pistol in it. The man began to shout at his men. It sounded like he was speaking Portuguese, which neither Jack nor Max understood. Jack pulled out his secret language decoder. The GPS secret language decoder was a rectangular device that could translate a foreign language into English on the screen. Jack turned the decoder on. The boys read the translation as the man talked. "We're moving out tomorrow," he barked. "This is the last day to find gold. Anyone find a nugget will get double rate rations. Anyone not finding gold will get nothing. For some of you, that's 3 days without food. If you're hungry, I suggest you work harder." The man pulled the pistol out of his holster and shot it into the air. Bang! The men jumped. So did Jack and Max. Terrified, the men quickly went back to work. "I think I know what happened to Jenny," said Jack. "Me too," said Max. "I think she found these guys, and I think they found her too." Okay, so now we know the pits are the men digging for gold. Okay, so we'll stop there. Hope you're enjoying the adventure so far. Bye.